Broadcasting live from Syracuse, New York, it's the PS&Ed Show. Addressing topics of public safety, education, and much more. Please welcome your hosts, Matt Mallory and Pat Kimball.
Cheese! All right, so we're here talking about building a fire. One thing you want to keep in mind is that getting a fire going is going to do many things for you. One, it's going to warm you up. Two, it's going to keep predators away, insects away, mosquitoes, etc. As well as it's going to be good for you to be able to cook food, purify water. And the other big thing is it's a mental game. When it comes to survival, the major majority of people that end up getting lost in the woods or lost hiking or whatever, they make it out because they have a mental game of, I'm going to win, I'm not going to die, I'm not going to die here, I've got kids to go home to, etc. So they have something to live for, and they have that will to survive. So that fire can do that for you. It can actually put you in that mindset. So getting a fire started, especially in cold weather or prior to the sun going down, can be crucial for you for the mental game as well as the physical game too. Boiling water, cooking food, getting yourself warm, drying out in case you get wet, stuff like that. Many different things we can do to start a fire. Now the old school way, all that works, but you're expending energy. You're getting rid of all this energy. And one of the things we've talked about in a survival situation, you don't want to dispense all that energy if you don't have to. It's going to be enough mentally just for you to stay alive and keep your wits. So why would you want to expend all that energy? So prepare, right? It's about 2 is 1, 1 is none. Better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. And there's a fine line between having too much, and then obviously you're weighing yourself down and you're taking away energy that way. So keep that in mind. But something simple. I mean, you're talking matches and lighters, right? You got a lighter. Is this lighter good? Okay, well, what if I do this and it doesn't work? Can I still be used for something? Yeah, right? I get the flint in there. I can still use that to start char cloth. We'll show you in a minute how to make char cloth as well. We've got some other things that are on the market that start pretty well. Candle can keep that going for you, as well as provide light to see what you're doing. Okay, some other things. What do we have in here? Dryer lint. Hey, my wife's hair. Okay, dryer lint works really well. I mean, that could get a fire going in a heartbeat. All right, so here we're going to try a ferro rod to get a spark and some lint, some regular dryer lint. My wife saves the dryer lint for me. Just trying to break up the lint to give it some air in between.
And to expose some of those smaller fibers that'll take a spark better.
Yes, sir, you got it. Now, if we really wanted to as well, we could also bring in some...
But steel wool, what's the benefit of the steel wool as opposed to lint?
Gives you a little bit more of an ignition, because it's a metal, a very fine, thin metal. We're exposing those fibers again, just the same kind of concept, opening it up. This is probably more than I need. The good thing is that in a cold situation like this, I don't want this going out. So if this starts burning, it gives me a chance to get the sticks on there. And if the sticks are cold or damp or frozen, then they've got to thaw out.
Oh. Nice, get that oxygen on that fire. Okay, so what Matt's doing there when he's blowing on the fire, right? Fire needs not just fuel, but it also needs oxygen in order to burn, right?
Anybody ever seen steel wool? Steel wool and a 9-volt battery. Now, granted, you're probably not going to have a 9-volt battery in anything out in the woods that you're going to be using. It's usually for smoke detectors and such like that. But a 9-volt battery in an emergency situation and a little bit of steel wool, spreading out those fibers, right? Very, it's like filament in a light bulb. What makes a light bulb bright? What makes it happen, right? It's a very fine piece of metal with electricity running through it. Very fine piece of metal with electricity running through it. Look at that. It blows people's mind that you can actually start a fire with a 9-volt battery and steel wool. There we go. How easy was that? Once again, we're talking weight. So now you're carrying a 9-volt battery around with a little extra weight there, but having a 9-volt battery or knowing where you can get a 9-volt battery and maybe having a little steel wool in your kit, you could create a spark with what? With a flint inside of a lighter to start steel wool. Pretty cool, right? Anybody chew gum? Now with this, you actually have to separate and create a small wick, just like if you're thinking about a light bulb, right? So you're basically ripping it apart in the center so that you have a high concentration of electricity running through a very small area. All this is just a regular gum wrapper. You got a regular gum wrapper, a regular C battery. Now watch. You ready? See it smoking?
I see the smoke.
And if you look close, you can actually see the brown starting where it's actually starting to burn. So there's heat being transferred from this battery through that wrapper. And if that was thinner, it would actually have started a lot faster. So if you put this down, and now it's actually burnt through, and now there's no transfer of electricity because it burned all the way through that piece of metal. Okay? So if you put this down close to lint or even the steel wool, you'd be able to start a fire with that. Pretty simple, right? All right, what else we got? We got cotton balls, like big boogers. Nice thing is, you roll this in Vaseline, 100% pure petroleum jelly, 100% pure cotton balls. No byproducts, no nothing else. The nice thing is you open this up, and now what you have on the inside is cotton that's unadulterated with Vaseline around it. So now what you can do is actually start this, pretty simple, without having to mess with anything. And what the nice thing is the jelly is actually what's going to be a lot of the fuel. And you see how quick that went up, right? I don't want to get burnt, so I flicked it off like a booger. Okay, pretty cool in that sense. Easy to make, very inexpensive. Just roll it. What I like to do for that, because it is a pain in the butt, I'll put a big glob of Vaseline inside of a Ziploc bag, and then I'll put a handful of cotton balls in there, zip it shut, and then just knead it. And then kneading it around those cotton balls will get it all in the cotton, and then you pull it out and you pop it in there. I mean, you see they're congealed because it's so cold outside, but that works really well for you. All right, you have survival bracelets like this that have it built in, have the ferro rod built in. Little striker, the rod's right here. Okay. Probably not going to be able to see. Can you see it from there?
I can see. You got some good sparks coming off.
So doing something like that, okay, along with something like this. Now obviously you're going to want to clear a spot, try to get rid of all the snow and make it, I don't want to do it on the plastic, but in a case like this, you can actually get some nice sparks down on here. And what you'd want to do is have something solid. So you'd have a solid base, clear, okay? And you'd have this pushed down into it. So when you actually strike it, you're striking that down into that tinder. And this also takes work, right? It takes work to get that going. And I just got a spark there, which is nice. So, once again, good to have a little lighter, right? What am I going to do here? I'm just going to go, let me see if I can start it. And there we go. And have you seen that little flicker? That little flicker was some of the actual magnesium that I had scraped off that rod. Okay, so what else we got? Let's see. Whew.
We got some waterproof matches.
We do. We've got Strike Anywhere matches. I love Strike Anywhere matches. You could take a Strike Anywhere match and find something rough. You could do it with your fingernail, actually, if you wanted to. Normal matches, it's separated where you have this white tip on this Strike Anywhere match is basically this part, and on a normal match, it doesn't have that piece. And if you look at a normal match, which I think I have some in here. Oh, look at that, more cotton, man. I don't have any in here, because you know why? Because normal matches suck. Having a strike anywhere match and being able to strike that on something abrasive can be hugely beneficial to you. What kind of candle do you think that is, Pat?
If I had to guess, I'd say a birthday candle.
But what kind of birthday candle? What kind of joke do you play with somebody in a birthday candle?
Oh, the ones that don't blow out.
Bingo!
The windproof ones.
So right there, you light this, it's a joke candle, and you light that, and now you get yourself a little candle that's going to have a harder time going out by wind blowing by or something to that extent. So I always put a couple of these joke candles inside my little tube to try to keep weather out of there, right? CLP Plus. Surprise!
Nice. Well, what's in that CLP, Matt? You got petroleum in there, right?
Yep.
So that CLP is going to be flammable for you.
Yes, sir. You could use that. Any kind of fluid that would, just like the Vaseline, that same kind of concept. You're using something that's going to start a fire quick. Your key, though, is you're going to need to have the tinder to be able to catch that on. You need to have something there that's going to catch that spark, catch that quick flame, and immediately transfer that heat over. Otherwise, you're just basically starting it and it's not going anywhere. Kind of like what we've been doing here with all this is there's no base of a fire, which we'll do in a second.
So we've got the tinder as well. We talked about that. And now here we've got a little bit of kindling, right? Yep. And so once we've actually gotten a fire going, we'll talk about the difference.
Strike anywhere match.
One shot, one kill. Mind blown.
All right. So another thing we're talking about is having fire for light, right? Be able to see what you're going to do. Not a bad idea to have a glow stick in there. Glow stick's quick light, something you can use, hanging it somewhere, having it in your general area so that you can actually work on starting your fire. That's a good thing to have as well. So, we gotta start this, because I really want to start one of these. These are, there's a lot of different names for them, a lot of different thoughts on these, but basically they're supposed to be waterproof as well as they're supposed to be windproof. So you start this up, and all of this down here is fuel that keeps that burning. And you see how it's kind of burning down? Burning actually very fast, but it's supposed to keep it from burning out. So you can see this is burning a little faster, I should say a little longer than the other match that we lit. But it's supposed to be a fuel stick, if you will, and it's got a wax coating over it. Speaking of that, you could take a normal match and you could dip it in wax to be able to protect that from having any sort of water damage or any kind of water that might affect it. I want to do some char cloth and show you how you make your own char cloth and why it's beneficial and what you can do with it. All right, so to make char cloth, your best way to do it would be to have your fire going and have some red hot coals, not so much the flame itself, but red hot coals. So this isn't the most ideal situation. It'll still work for us. You've just got to watch it a little closer. Char cloth is basically 100% cotton with all the oxygen taken out of it. You know it's done when it's black, completely black, and it's charred. Basically cloth that's charred. Hence the term, char cloth.
Sure.
But I've cut up a bunch of little old t-shirt into little pieces like this. You just stack them on top of each other inside of a tin. I usually like using the Kiwi tins because they're the best in that sense. In the olden days, you used to be able to use pellet tins, but some of the pellet tins now come with plastic cap on them, so it's kind of harder to find. These you still usually are little tin cans. Just pop a hole in the top of it. That's where the oxygen from the char or from the cloth is actually going to escape. And you're basically just putting it inside that fire, and it's going to heat up that cloth and expel all that oxygen. You actually see a stream of smoke coming out of the top of that can, and that's when you know that it's done at that point. And then you just set it off to the side, let it cool down, pop it open, and you have a bunch of little pieces of char cloth. Very cool. We can use that for tinder in the future. Yes, sir. Keep it dry, but it's definitely something that'll spark and go off quick for you.
Very cool. So Matt, how's that fire coming? Yeah, nice and warm. Now look at his hands, they're all red. Getting kind of cold out here. right? So having a fire, I mean, we've only been out here a couple of hours, but if we didn't have any gloves or any warm clothes to keep ourselves from getting exposed, we'd be running some risks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sirree, Bob.
Don't leave that smoking, you run some other risks.
I'm smoking myself. How cold it is.
Smoking that pine.
Are you prepared? Can you survive?